All right, perfect. All right, hi Eric.
Hey, Sam, how you doing?
Doing well.
Thanks for having me
Hi.
on today. Looking forward to it. Shar, nice to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you. Where are you located?
Currently, I'm residing just north of Houston. Just recently moved out here after being in Oregon for the last 38 years. So it's a little bit of a
Oh,
change.
is it a lot hotter down there?
Oh my goodness, yes. That was one of the reasons we moved down here, but the summers are a different sort of hot. 80% humidity, 100-degree temperature. I'm looking forward to going back. I'm heading back to Oregon for the summer though, so that'll be nice.
Mm.
Yeah, I've heard it's really humid down there.
Yes, it is. And where are you guys located at?
So I am in, well, currently I'm in Phoenix.
Oh, okay. So hot there as well too.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, but so I'm traveling all over a bit. So I'm going to be in Europe this summer and so forth. So we're going to be going around, making the rounds. But we
Sounds
can.
lovely.
Yeah. So Erica, Sam and I are kind of unique individuals. Do you refer to us as nomads, Sam? Is that
Yeah, that's right.
I live half the year in Puerto Vallarta, and I live the other half a year in Colorado.
It sounds like my dream lifestyle right there. Actually, my wife is from Guatemala, so once our kids are grown, we expect to be half the year in Central America and the other half the year somewhere beautiful.
Oh,
Right.
right.
Well, I do refer to it time to time because when you're working with remote employees and also as a business owner, if you're also all over the place like that, what your dream is going to be, it offers a whole new dimension and challenge to managing a company. So love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think in this day and age, it's been a remarkable change that we've seen in people wanting to find a work-life balance more than ever, especially with conversations on mental health and finding good places to be. Like I said, that's one of the reasons we moved here was because the rainy days in Portland, Oregon were just too much for us, and we needed something a little different, a little more sunshine in our lives. But with these unique changes come unique problems, and so a lot of team leaders, HR people, they're all looking for ways to create that company culture that is so vital to a company's success. And so definitely excited to talk about that.
Yeah, I completely am with you there. That's why I'm excited to hear what you talk about today. Some new and innovative practices, and our forums are all about that. How do you manage in a different world today, even more so than a few years ago?
Yeah.
I've lived in the Seattle area before.
So you're very well aware of the gloomy days that are November through June.
Yeah, I had my first child in the Puyallup area, so definitely got to enjoy the rain and the dreary. It's kind of like that here today, actually, here in Denver.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely interesting to see that. And then when the sunshine would come out and I saw Mount Rainier, and it was absolutely gorgeous. The greenery, it was just absolutely beautiful. So
it's hard to beat the Pacific Northwest. It definitely has a beauty that is hard to capture other places. I kind of took it for granted, growing up there, and then I get to here and everything's flat. There's no hills anywhere.
yes. Yep, definitely. I've been to Houston too.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges for people right now is trying to find a way to connect with people now that we're all so spread out. And as we see, even just I kind of like to take a look at jobs out there just to see what people are looking for. And with the new generation of workers coming through, they really are focusing heavily on finding remote opportunities. If you look at a lot of the entry-level positions, a lot of companies are offering remote first now. And so that's been a way of capturing talent, is to allow them to be able to work from wherever they want. And it's been beneficial to companies too. But like I said, the challenges with the good always comes the bad as well too.
Yep. Yeah, our comp team just got together in person last week, and it was the strangest thing to actually see people that I'm talking to online for several years, actually see their faces.
Yeah. Have you guys always been a remote first company?
Yes, definitely. Comp team
Yeah,
has
so
it.
then you guys are well versed. So when the pandemic hit, then it didn't shift you much, but I would say 90% of the companies out there were definitely scrambling to try to find a way to connect. And so a little background on myself. Is this a good part to talk
Oh,
about my background?
let's hold on that a bit because we're gonna start in 1 minute, and so I have to
Oh,
keep
okay.
things up. And so we're
All
gonna
right.
have to do like
I'll strictly adhere to the timeline, but yeah, that's I've actually really enjoyed. I switched to a remote working lifestyle as well too, and I've really enjoyed it. Though I have to say that the four walls inside my office tend to get a little bit dreary after a while, so I do have to find myself forcing myself out. So currently, my children just got out of school. It's a little different here, and so we went to the library and allowed them to, play in the kids section while we worked. We took a spot. My wife and I found a spot to go work. So you have to find creative ways to get out of the house, but still be able to be productive.
right. No kidding.
Oh, you just gave me a great business idea.
Ooh, I
I
love good
think,
business ideas. Let's
I
hear it.
think kind of like the WeWork kind of environment, but
Yeah.
maybe WeWork with like child play areas would be
Genius.
Stanford, yeah,
During the
Stanford, you have
summertime.
a lot of connections with WeWork type of setups.
Yeah.
Or Thrive Workplace. Wouldn't that be cool though? I mean, they have like the great little coffee tables and the beer fridge and all that, but it'd be cool to have like a play area, a universal play area. I'm gonna set that up. That's a new company idea.
Yeah, right. June through August would be great. Yeah, we'll swap the beer for chocolate milks, and we'll get snacks for.
Plugging on the beer when your kids are playing, right?
Yeah, or maybe we need beer and chocolate milk.
Yeah, good idea.
Oh, we've got a person joining us. Hello.
Hi, Sumit.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Hi, Eric.
Hi,
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
So we're just about to get kicked off here, so let's go ahead and welcome all our listeners. And so as we get started, so welcome. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just kick off the multicast first. I want to get ahead of myself. the most important part, so everybody can actually start seeing it. So as I do that here, and perfect. All right. So welcome everyone to the People Strategy Forum. And for those that are not familiar with us, I mean, one of our main mantras here is to make sure that we're sharing ideas that help leaders and HR practitioners develop better environments to work and to live and so forth for their employees. And so basically to engage, energize, and elevate your workforce. And so we bring in experts from all over the different fields and that bring in lots of different ideas on how to make that work life better for their people. And so we have a real special guest today. I wanted to introduce you in just a moment, but a little bit about things, how we work today. If you happen to be on live on the Zoom platform, feel free to ask questions in the chat at any time, and we'll get to those through the conversation. And if you are joining us through one of our multi-streamed areas, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, you can leave questions there on that platform, and we'll also get to those likely after the forum. But if we can monitor those ahead of time, and I'll see if I can bring those in the discussion. So, so a little bit about our team here. We have our host. There's a few of us that are not able to make it. Jules is not able to join us today. She usually kicks off these sessions and does a lot better job than I do. And then also Howard, unfortunately, will not be able to join us today. He's not feeling well. But we do have Shar Miller, who is a people strategist. She's also an entrepreneur. She has several small businesses that she runs. Then also has a deep background in as a HR professional and large healthcare firms, and Shar, you have your coaching Mountain to Sea and also the health advocacy Mountain to Sea, and so definitely a pleasure to have you on as a host.
Yeah, pleasure to be here for the last several years. So it's been just a joy to work with Comp Team.
And also we have Sumit Singla, who's also a people strategist out of India. Sumit brings a international perspective on working from companies such as Accenture and Aon and different types of consulting practices. So he has a deep expertise in international business and what different businesses face on the multinational realm. So welcome, Sumit.
Thank you, Sam. Glad to be here. And I might just be mildly jet lagged and a little zoned out, but I'll try my best.
All right, so I'd love to introduce you to Eric Hermeling. So Eric is Eric is the CEO of Belmont, which is a company that is focused on making sure that those break rooms and the experience in companies have been well established in the past. And now that there's been a change in the way that we work and we live as our workers, we're both at remote and hybrid. Eric has brought his company to bring that culture to home or those remote environments, so that that warm, inviting type of culture, in whether you're in the office or outside the office, Belmont can bring that culture to you. And so we're going to be talking today about how to maintain that culture in those remote environments. And so there's a lot to talk about here. So first, as we get started here, Eric, would love to hear a little bit about you and how did you get started in your company and bring that to life?
Yeah, so well, thank you, Sam. I appreciate the warm introduction, especially the special guest. It always feels good to feel special. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, uncles, dads, mothers, etc., who have worked for themselves and built that. So coming out of college, I always knew I wanted to start a business. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, but after some long, deep nights of thinking, I got a good idea for creating food and beverage experiences in offices. Excuse me. And back in 2007, when I originally started, there was definitely this sort of antiquated way of looking at it that as long as the coffee was hot and black, and that's pretty much all people served, people would be happy. But as we started to morph into really focusing in on company culture and creating a workplace that people actually wanted to go to, we started to see this shift in how companies viewed their break rooms. And they really wanted to provide a really wonderful experience that would keep their teams engaged, keep them happy. Really, the goal was to get them to want to come in early in the morning and stay late in the evenings. And the concept was, well, if they're here, they'll be working. And as long as they're not going to Starbucks, we can make them happy. And so that's where our company came in. We started creating really wonderful programs for them, focusing mainly on coffee. And then we started to adapt new product lines, new services that we could offer to create that. So we brought in cold brew and kombucha. We brought in espresso machines. We even brought in catering services and snack and pantry related items as that became more and more popular. So a lot of the companies we worked with were really high-end technology companies. They were definitely the groundbreakers of this sort of mantra of getting people to want to stay in the workspace. And then as that started to trickle into other industries, we started seeing more marketing firms, advertising firms, engineering as well. And so some of the companies that we've worked with are Nike, Wyden and Kennedy, AWS, Elemental, SurveyMonkey, Squarespace, SquareUp, et cetera. So we have a long history of working with really large organizations who want to create a really wonderful food and beverage experience. And then as we started to get into 2020 and the pandemic happened and we were all sort of forced to work from home, especially these companies who had the ability to work from home, the people without them going to the office, we needed to kind of create a new model to allow their teams to still get that wonderful food and beverage experience while working from home. And so at that point, we created Break Time, which was a really unique program at the time to send a food and beverage experience that's customized by the employee to them while they're working from home. And so we created our own platform that makes it easy for HR leaders, team leaders, anybody who wants to reward their team to choose an experience through our website. It creates a link for them to share with their team. They send the link on chat, Slack, MS Team Chat, email, and then each employee gets to click on that link and then customize the box just the way they want it. So you can have somebody who has a dark roast coffee drinker with their gluten-free snacks, other people who want their green tea with their vegan snacks. So there's something for everybody, which is obviously important in this day and age when inclusion is really important.
So one of the things that, that is all the buzz right now and rewards is really customizing the experience, and it looks like that you're providing this straight out of the box there, so to speak. So what trends are you seeing overall in the employee experience that you're trying to address?
A lot of the trends that, if we kind of even take a step back away from just our specific business model, is that obviously a big topic is diversity and equity and inclusion, or diversity, equality, and inclusion, and wanting to make sure that everybody feels recognized within a company. I think so often we can kind of try to put everybody in a box, but no two people are exactly alike, and they want to feel like they are seen for who they are. And so a lot of companies are looking for different ways of engaging with their teams and creating those experiences to make people feel like they are a part of the company. I think that ultimately is what it comes down to. So some of the trends that I have seen, and I get to talk to a lot of HR leaders and team leaders from all around the country, is creating experiences. I think experiences are a really big thing. I think that's something that we can all share in and that we can all appreciate. One of the things that is challenging for companies, though, is when they look for different experiences or different gifts and services, is to allow for that variety of experience to be available. So one of the ones I've heard that was like really fun of a company that they actually found a company that does like virtual live tours of like really fun places around the world. So like they did one for the Eiffel Tower in Paris. So everybody got on a Zoom call, and then a person took them on a virtual tour of the Eiffel Tower. And I think that's something that we can all appreciate. I guess unless you live in Paris, you might be like, well, I go there all the time. But for the rest of us, it was a wonderful experience. And then other trends that I'm also seeing is really focusing on the health side of things. So whether it's your mental health or your physical health, companies like I've seen, I think it's called Gym Pass, that allows them to provide a gym experience, but it allows people access to different gyms around the country, right? So it's not just one chain of gyms that, if somebody who's in, a rural part of Kansas can't access, they're allowing people to get all across the country. So those are some of the different ways that people are trying to connect with their teams and create a very inclusive environment.
Yeah, that sounds, I think that's one of the big pieces that we were talking about in depth last week with our internal team, was just the importance of connecting and having that experience to where we can all share and so forth. But as people are looking for this new experience or this custom experience, what do you mentioned a couple of really good ones. The virtual tours, health, and diversity, inclusion, and what it may be. What is the most popular piece that you're seeing out there? Is it still centered around bringing in the break time into the home and so forth?
Yeah, I think one of those things that's kind of fun is that sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution, right? So food and beverage is definitely a timeless tradition. I think we can all think back to moments in our lives where we've gathered around some sort of food experience or some sort of beverage experience, whether it's a happy hour after work or having a team lunch, right? So those are things that really bring people together. And so now with everybody kind of shifted around, we're starting to see these trends of, okay, so we're going back to the office now, and companies who didn't, we're going back to the office in like a hybrid way. Companies who may before have not wanted to invest highly in that are now wanting to invest more into that, because they want to encourage people to come back to the office to create that cohesive environment where people are connected together. But now that they've hired so many people outside of their organization, so for example, if your HQ is in Portland, Oregon, but you hired a tech developer in Kansas, how are they going to be able to share in that same experience? And so with our product or other products similar to ours, you can send that sort of same experience, allow them to have something that's meaningful to them so they don't feel like they're being left out. And so once again, kind of tying back to that inclusion. So they're trying to create a holistic approach. And I would say, during the pandemic, it was really fun to come up with a lot of creative ideas for ways to connect people, like kind of the virtual tours. But the challenge is that the engagement rate started off very high when Zoom and everything was very fresh. But then as we started to get the fatigue of being on camera and another meeting, people really just wanted something that they could just kind of consume and have at their own leisure. And so that's where we found a lot of the positive feedback from break time was, hey, they get to kind of choose, customize their box. It comes to their door. It's kind of a surprise. There's a fun unboxing element. There's a nice card in there that welcomes them or tells them something, that they appreciate about them. And then that box is customized by them. So it's something that they would actually want, as opposed to, hey, I don't even care for these types of products. Why did you send me these? You don't even know me. So that was the part that was kind of the missing link, is creating it as a special experience for them.
Well, I know that a lot of there's a lot of services out there that we're just getting used to, such as the food delivery services like HelloFresh and Blue Apron and so forth, that where you can select what you want and it comes to you. And there's other types of club shipping, where they put things in a box and they send it to you as a surprise, and it's things that are catered to your preferences and so forth. So I think this is a definitely a new thing that people are really enjoying. But do you find that companies like to do this on a weekly basis or a monthly basis? What's the most common cadence for something like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, obviously if you're thinking of like an in-office service, it's always constant, right? It needs to always be there and available, ready. We still haven't seen quite the shift where people want to send out a weekly box. We do have some of our clients sending out weekly, but more often than not, they send it out about quarterly. They'll choose a quarterly experience. But we also have people using our boxes for different reasons too, like if it's a work anniversary or a birthday or some other sort of milestone related to their professional career, they'll use these boxes to send them out. And I think something else that's kind of interesting that Sam, I only know if you and I got to talk about last time, was that there is certain tax implications for different gifts and experiences that we all are kind of maybe not top of mind when we're thinking about doing it. But something interesting about snacks and beverages is that the IRS has actually said that if you're sending snacks and beverages or you're providing those in your offices, those are actually a tax write-off. Like there's no limit to that. You can actually provide these small snacks and beverages to people without having to worry about a tax implication. Whereas if you're delivering full meals like the HelloFresh or bringing in even catered lunches, those can be sometimes considered a taxable event.
That's really good information, so that this is kind of those pieces that can be cost efficient for companies.
Absolutely, yeah. And so, with the way that we set it up, our least expensive experience, and sorry, I've got the guy weed eating right next to my window, so it's a little distracting, but he's almost done. Least expensive option is $24.95 for our box. So it allows for a really kind of inexpensive way to recognize somebody. That provides you with either a full bag of snacks or their own favorite 2 beverages that they can choose from. And then that really kind of captures into a price point that allows people to feel like they're not breaking the bank. But then we do also have larger experiences. So it kind of depends on the company's budget, how much they want to encourage with their team. A lot of companies use this with their wellness budget too, because we really focus on high quality, healthier food options. We're all looking at that from a healthy standpoint. And so you're not going to find a lot of like Lay's, potato chips or any sort of high sugar snacks. We're looking to really keep it clean and good energy for people, because I think we all understand that hunger is a real thing, and you do need to kind of keep your blood sugars just monitored just quite right so that you can get through the day.
But sending food and beverage is one thing, but there's how do we, as companies and leaders, how do they really deliver the brand and deliver the culture that they want?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. As being a leader of a company, culture is always at the forefront of your mind. How do you foster a really positive culture within your company? And I've spent a lot of time thinking about that within my own company. And I think these things like sending out appreciation rewards or experiences are important. But if you don't have a foundation built around culture and communication and allowing people to feel like they can be who they are, it kind of becomes window dressing. It's not really. It's very surface level. So I think, one of the things that, the companies in my opinion, really need to focus on is starting at the ground floor, building a strong foundation of culture within a company. And it really comes down to trust, right? You need to be able to trust each other to do each other's jobs, right? Because we're all kind of one unit. Communication, so that people can communicate and feel open. And then also to be able to feel like you can be who you are at work is the same person you are at home, right? And if people are really conscious of those things, then these other sort of extra benefits, as we like to call them, become much more less window dressing and much more sort of building blocks to building a strong company culture. So, I will even transparently say, if you've got a really bad company culture and you're not doing a great job of building trust and communication and allowing people to be who they are in your company, and you just send them a box, that's not going to fix it. There's bigger problems that you have to start to address. And with people working remotely, it can be hard to sometimes create these connection points. A lot of HR leaders are finding it challenging to create the one-on-ones and really try to make them feel a part of the team when we're just kind of focused on a screen. And so when I spend some time chatting with HR leaders, I ask them kind of what their largest challenges are with this new work environment. And that is definitely the number one thing that comes back is, how do I make people who are not within the organization feel, or outside the HQ sort of geography, feel like they're connected and part of the team? And so I've come across a lot of interesting things that we can talk about on how people do foster that strong company culture.
Let's dive a little bit more into that. I mean, so what are some of the elements that some of these leaders have shared with you?
Yeah, so the ones that have really stood out in my mind are, and I've heard this on a few different occasions, it's just really being mindful, like top of mind, of creating those one-on-ones with like HR leaders, to check in with them, say how things going, like really open the lines of communication, ask them what we could be doing better to make their remote experience be a stronger connection to their team. And then beyond that is, how do you create and foster communication across teams who may not communicate all the time, right? Like you probably have people within your own company, like I talk to Shar every single day because we work on a lot of the same projects, but Bill over in accounting, like there's not much that him and I talk about. So how do we create those environments to allow people to do? And so whether it's just being very mindful to create little, coffee chats for people, like, hey, take a 30-minute break. This is scheduled on our calendar. We're matching you up with these two people that you may not have time with. We want you guys to talk about anything but work, right? So that's a lot of the times they're like, hey, talk about whatever you want to do, but it can't be about work. Let's get to know each other. So creating these sort of water cooler moments, kind of trying to create it organically through sort of the construct of having it be digital, has been really positive for these companies. So like really making it a priority. And then the last thing is creating those team events together. Like, how can we get everybody together and create these team events? And so they'll put on, quarterly virtual events to talk about how things went through the quarter. But during that time, then they break off into small groups. And once again, trying to pair people up who normally wouldn't have as many opportunities to connect, but having them talk more about their work-related things. So there's kind of a three-part thing: the one-on-ones, small groups that meet weekly, and then large organizational groups, and then kind of breaking people into these different sections to talk amongst themselves.
So basically creating, companies are creating, or some leaders are creating groups or special type interest groups, whether they have certain hobbies that they enjoy, or things like this, book clubs, different things like that, just so they can get to know their colleagues a little bit better. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think that's great. I think you nailed it right there. Is the special interest things really help shape those conversations and get people talking. I think we took it for granted when we were all in the office, 9 to 5, 90% of the time, that those conversations just kind of happen naturally as you walk to the break room, and then you meet Bill from accounting, like, hey, how's it going? And you start talking about your kids or what you guys did on the weekend. But when we're not, doing that forcefully and not in a bad way, but making it happen, that's where those connection points get lost. And if you remember early on in the pandemic, a lot of people were saying like, this is going to be the hardest challenge, is keeping people connected, because we're so reliant on those bumping into somebody and be like, oh, I remember, like I meant to talk to you about this. Let's go over this project and have like a brainstorming session. So now people need to be much more mindful and actually schedule those brainstorming sessions, which comes with its own challenges as well, too, I suppose, is kind of that aspect. But the people that I say that put the effort and energy into creating those times for people to connect are the ones who are seeing the best results from it.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out, because right now I think there's a lot of leaders that are feeling a bit of a fatigue with the remote environment. They have, or the hybrid environment specifically. They have people in the office, people outside the office. There are different ways of juggling communication and rewards and customization of those rewards. I know that, we just, of course, the news just recently about Elon Musk wanting everybody to show up at work and so forth like that, and show up at the workplace instead of being remote. And and I think there's certain environments like manufacturing companies where, of course, that is more required. But I think the largest trend that we're seeing out there is that employees definitely want that flexibility. They want, especially with prices going up and getting around and commuting is quite difficult. And frankly, the pandemic, it looms, right?
Yeah.
So being around people is always a concern for some individuals. So I think that solutions like this that make remote work and delivering rewards easier is a huge benefit. And I know, Shari, I mean, just when we're thinking about the way companies are reacting to a lot of remote benefits, whether they're telehealth or different things like that. I mean, I don't think that's going away. What's your thought?
Absolutely not. And I think the traditional aspect of benefits, I think those are just the core, your health benefits, your basic employee wellness benefits, et cetera. But I think employers definitely need to think out of the box and think more with ingenuity as far as what's going to be really appeal to the personalization of customizing some type of benefit for an employee that really appreciates their lifestyle. I have to kind of tease Sumit here because last week when we finally got together as comp team, Sumit gave me a taste of his vegan snacks, right, Sumit? So he actually went out. Yeah, so Sumit, you found some cupcakes as well as some vegan jerky. And as we were sitting there, he said, "Shar, have a taste of this." I think he's trying to turn me into a vegan. And they were pretty good, right, Sumit? What kind of vegan snack did you have me try? It was kind of fun to try it.
Yeah, it was. In fact, I was just thinking over last week, and personally, it felt quite amazing to be included because one of the teammates who knew that I'm vegan, they took the trouble of going all the way and getting me a couple of vegan chocolates. So based on what Eric was saying, I think it's very easy to recognize somebody. It's very easy to make them feel valued if you just keep some of these factors if you take these factors into account. Somebody could be a fan of a particular kind of coffee, and if one could just find that, I think it's a fantastic way of customizing the recognition that one is bringing to people, and just saying that, yes, I hear the stuff that you say. We might have different lifestyle preferences or dietary preferences, but we include you, and we're kind of on the same page when it comes to including you on that front. So I think that's my little example of how that made me feel valued. And yes, of course, the snacks are really good, so you gotta try them sometime. I'm not trying to preach veganism here, but they're really good.
I just thought that was great, Sumit, to learn that about you, and it would kind of open my eyes at all the dietary options out there. Hey, Sumit, I have a special mug for you. This is my cow mug. But this cow has eyelashes. See, little eyelashes.
Interesting.
Anyway, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Do we also give people free mugs and other things other than food, or is it mainly focused on food with that?
Well, yeah, it's kind of fun, actually. We've had a lot of companies who have wanted to opt in and put branded materials in there too. I think a lot of companies really focus on trying to kind of send home the swag. And I'll say it's kind of interesting. It's a 50-50 bag. Some people really enjoy getting swag. other people are like, why are you sending me this stuff? Like, it's
Why
like,
are you sending me junk mugs that are going to end up in the back of my mug cabinet?
exactly. Yeah. And really, it's kind of hit or miss. And I think, a lot of companies think, oh, we have to kind of bring us to them, right? They need to know that they work for ABC technology company and they've got a backpack and all these different things. And I think, this is a personal opinion, but if I would prefer to be like, hey, why don't you just give me some sort of voucher to go get myself my own backpack that kind of matches me, because this neon green with a weird logo on it and walking around like a fanboy doesn't seem that fun to me, but other people do really appreciate it. So that's kind of going back to kind of like Sumit was saying, is like, are you seeing me for who I am, or are you just assuming that I'm like everybody else? And I one of the things I was laughing is like, I have a chance to get to try a lot of vegan snacks now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like there is so many great vegan snacks out there. We partner with a vegan chocolatier company out of Portland, Oregon for Valentine's Day, and we made these wonderful vegan chocolate bundles, and we chose that specifically, and we put them in every single box. Because one, they're delicious, but two, they kind of check all the things. They were gluten-free, they were vegan, they were nut-free. So even if you have no dietary restrictions, you still loved them. And then if you did have dietary restrictions, you still loved them. And that has really been the biggest feedback we've gotten, is people are saying, wow, it's so nice that we're able to recognize everybody within a company all using the same service, and we all get to kind of share in the experience together while still being individuals. And I think that that's really important, is still feeling like an individual, but a part of a team. And so if you can capture that with whatever program you're doing, you are 2 steps ahead of most other people out there.
Yeah, I think it's a great conversation piece too. It's kind of like, wow, when Sumit and I were talking about this, hey, you didn't know, Sumit, we're going to talk about your vegan snacks. But it's a great conversation starter. It's kind of like, hey, this is cool. This is neat to learn about different things. But if the person really likes beef jerky, then send them a package of beef jerky,
But we were just talking about diversity and inclusion, right? And so, this is as Sumit has shown, this is a way for us to get to know about different lifestyle choices and social awareness of what it means to be a vegan, and also different cultural practices. I mean, and sharing products even from across the globe. I mean, Sumit is so thoughtful. I got to say, he just it was sharing some of this culture. He brought some special snacks from India, which were delicious, and sharing that is kind of is very educational, and we learn a little bit more about Sumit, or we learn more about the Indian culture or what it means to be vegan, and then all those things are quite valuable as a team, right?
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. And I think that once again, kind of tying back to food and beverages, all cultures have their own food and drinks that they appreciate. And so, whether it's culture or your own personal diet, right? Whether people, however they consume their food, it's a very personal experience to them. And so, you think about it, it's like, well, it's kind of simple. It's coffee and snacks, but no, it's a personal experience, right? When you wake up in the morning and you brew your coffee, it's for you. It's something that you enjoy, and you're doing it just for you. And when your company's recognizing you and be like, hey, I know that these moments are special to you, here's something that you can enjoy within them. That's been a really positive experience as well too. More than I even expected when we first started this. I kind of used to joke that we take stuff from a large box and put it in a small box and then ship it to you. But it's so much more than that when you add this personal element into it.
Absolutely. And I also agree with the hit and miss part that you were talking about, Eric. Like, Ishar sees an Indian guy on the call and pulls out the cow mug. That's just a joke. But yeah, and I think it's also a conversation starter in a different sense altogether. One won't see as many people bonding over the neon backpack that you mentioned, whereas you see the kind of boxes that you're talking about, or you see a unique food experience. It happened a week ago. We're still talking about it. I don't think we would have had this kind of a conversation if it had been, say, a set of branded pens or mugs or something of that sort that we'd see.
Yeah, I have to share this story because one of my best friends works with a major healthcare system that I also used to work with. And I happened to be at her house, and she got a couple packages in her mail, and she was so super excited because she goes, yeah, I'm getting this special lighted camera. I selected it from a catalog. I'm so excited. Something that she was going to get some special technology because she's an IT manager. And she opened the box and there was the most ugliest brown, gray, backpacky looking thing with the big fat logo on the front. And not only that, one, she didn't pick it. Two, she got 2 boxes of the same thing, which was really weird. So it was a shipping issue. And 3, the first thing she wanted to do was throw it away, but because she's into recycling, she decided to donate it. But who wants to even get a donated ugly backpack with a big old logo on it that's not meaningful to them? But I feel like although the company was trying to do something very nice and generous, it kind of backfired. It actually kind of left a negative stigma in a way. It wasn't personalized. In fact, they kind of messed up on the shipment.
Yeah.
And I would also say that back when I was doing more traditional HR practices, I just remember all the times that we would do all those employee luncheons and particularly focused on longevity, the 30-year award and, that type of thing. But yet it was, even though it might have been a nice little watch, let's say, it still had the big logo in the middle of it. And who's going to wear a watch with their company logo and be reminded of work, 24/7?
I think it all depends on so there's certain things that companies can do if they're really thoughtful about what they're sending out. It could be a reminder of a great culture and so forth. But Eric, I mean, what kind of demographics and when you look at the demographics and their desires of what they like to see, are you coming out with some information there?
You mean in terms of like what, like a Gen Z versus a millennial versus like Gen Y type demographics?
Yeah, or even in different types of companies as well, such as those in manufacturing environments versus technical environments. Are you seeing certain trends that are interesting?
But yeah, I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but like if we were to look back kind of into the hybrid environment, a lot of companies who before were not interested in providing kind of an enhanced experience of a food and beverage experience in their office are now opting to want to bring in snacks and focusing on vegan and gluten-free and nut-free, bringing in higher quality products to encourage people to come back to the office, or at least when they are there, that they're excited about being there. But in terms of like demographics and with like the tech companies and higher end companies, they've kind of been doing that for a while. So they're now starting to look for really creative ways to create a fun environment for people who are working outside of those organizations. Because I don't know what it's like in your guys' market, but especially on the West Coast, a lot of the high-end companies, technology, et cetera, they still really haven't returned to work in a meaningful way, even in these hybrid environments. And a couple of examples, like a lot of these companies that we would work for that would have 200 to 300 people in the office every single day, Monday through Friday, now have about 20 to 30. So we're looking at about 10% at this point. And we're now into June, and it's really, almost 2.5 years into the pandemic, this seems to be the new norm, right? We see these people, it's like, I don't, like you said, Sam, like gas is $5 a gallon. I don't want to drive 30 minutes in traffic and waste my morning and then have to race, try to get home in time for the kids when they get home from school. Like, I'd rather just stay at home, be more productive, be here when my kids get home from school, make it easy for them, easy for me. So there's a small section of people, the very extroverted people that want to be in the office, or maybe they don't have a great home office and they want to go in. But for the most part, people want to stay at home. And I think that honestly, I mean, beyond the kind of the fun things that we do for them, that is now the new sort of benefit that Shar was kind of alluding to. Like, we all know you're supposed to get paid time off at this point. We all know you're supposed to have a 401k. You should have healthcare. You should have these benefits. These ones are now, they're just taken for granted. If you don't do those things, there's something wrong with your company, not something that somebody else is doing better. Now it's the remote thing. Like, are you going to allow me to work remotely when I want? Don't tell me when I'm supposed to go in the office. I'll go in the office when I want to. That's the new norm. And especially with the younger generation of workers who, there's not much company loyalty, and kind of talking about what Shar was saying is like, who wants to be reminded of work, or who wants to get something that they know within 2 years, like, well, I'm still just company hopping. I'm going to go to the next company that's going to pay me more. So I don't need a ABC technology backpack because in 2 years I won't be working for them anyway. And that's just their new norm now too.
Yeah, and then one thing, and Daniel was one of our listeners. Is very good to point out once again the story from Elon Musk requiring Tesla employees to put in their 40 hours in the office. And I know there's some companies that are trying to buck the trend, return back to normal, especially those that are in the manufacturing environments, which of course people do have to be on site to do some of that work. But overall, I mean, we're still seeing that a lot of information workers, are desiring and continuing wanting that work-life flexibility of being remote. But I know that I don't expect that all. There's downsides of being fully remote, right? I mean, people feel excluded. They feel like they want some sort of connection. And some of that can be accomplished to a certain percentage, maybe through Zoom or other types of virtual platforms. But what are companies doing? Do you see a greater trend or do you see some ideas of where companies are trying to do something other than through Zoom or in the office?
Yeah, I think so. And I can think of just probably like out of clients that used to always have an office environment, now they're like 20 to 30% of them just let their leases go, right? Because that's a big component that we're not even talking about, is that physical space is very expensive. And so they're saying, how can we use that budget that we would normally allocate towards rent and create that environment? So now they're doing more like quarterly team get-togethers, right? Like, let's fly everybody into a conference area now that we're able to do that and get together. And like Shar was saying, it kind of makes for a unique and kind of fun experience, right? It's a little different. It's like, hey, I talk to you all the time over camera. It's so kind of strange to see you in person, but that creates the new element of connection. And then you go back to going back in remote and you feel a bit more connected to these people because they're real, they're tangible, they're not just faces on a screen. And so, however companies decide to move in which direction they want to, I think, being mindful that we still need to be getting together in person to create those kind of community bonds where we can have a joke and a laugh and be in more of a relaxed environment is going to be important. So whether they're wanting to do hybrid, they need to continue to like bring company events together. I think that's going to be really important, and really thinking about how they can use those budgets to now create team building exercises. So I think you're going to see a lot of team building companies out there moving, especially now that we're able to get back in together, creating those environments and just, fly people in. It's not that cheap to fly anymore because of gas, but we'll eventually get back there.
Yeah. Some of my fondest memories as far as some of the team building activities that myself and my HR team would do, one of the fun ones was actually coming together and cooking, like going to a commercial kitchen and cooking, and everyone would teach each other. It was a great activity. It was kind of a teamwork activity. And then we'd have lessons learned. Those were great times, I think. I don't know if that's taxable or not, but it's something.
Yeah, I'm sure they could figure out a way around it. Yeah, it's creative. But yeah, a lot of companies are seeing a lot of realized savings from downsizing their footprints or not having as many locations. Real estate's getting cheap, and some of these bigger companies are gobbling it up. But for a mid-sized company with 100 employees, is like, does it make sense to have a 20,000 square foot office space anymore if there's 10 people coming in every day? It's like, let's do the math here and figure out how we can realize these savings, but invest it back into the company, right? And I think, this is a bit of a off tangent, but like, I think more than ever, we need to be focusing as leaders is how can we invest in our people and not just our bottom lines? I think that's really important, creating a really a quality workspace where not just the top 1% of a company make all the money and everybody else is kind of just working to make everybody else rich. So if people start to take a more mindful approach to investing into their people, whether it's through food and beverage, through break time boxes or company experiences, I think that they will reap a very strong culture from that.
Totally agree. Well, one of the big things is that we've been talking about, experiences and also having those experiences be meaningful, whether you're remote or in the office, and the difference there. And I think that one thing that really bothers people about going into the office is the thought that, hey, I could be doing this at home right now. Why did I have to do this commute? Or those. So I think that when we're thinking about whether we require people to go in the office or whatever, that we want to make that time meaningful. So it's either we're getting together for and to go through this project or to do this this brainstorming or whatever it may be. But it's also important for us to realize that those things can take place in other places. You can enhance the experience by going to a certain co-working site or maybe a coffee house or certain things like this that change up the environment, keep things interesting instead of just going back into the cubicle or whatever you might be experiencing at your workplace.
Yeah, I mean, those are really interesting things. I think it kind of ties into the chat comment we got about Elon Musk, and it reminds me of a story that back when we thought the pandemic first ended, which was basically this time last year, we're getting into June. There was a company in Portland called Portland. Oh my gosh, why? No, it was Pacific Power Company. So a large power company there, and they were going to require everybody to go back to work or take a 10% pay cut. And I mean, it created a huge PR nightmare for them, right? Like there was tons of backlash from people. And I think you kind of nailed it on the head here, Sam, when you said like, hey, why would I come into work when I can do this at home? And then the next part of that question is, don't you trust me? And that trust part is the aspect that people are forgetting when they're like, hey, you have to come into work. Well, why do I have to come into work? So we can watch you work. Oh, so you don't trust me. You don't trust me, then I don't trust you, right? Well, how does that build like a company culture if you're not building on trust? And like I said, and it's my opinion, but trust is one of the biggest foundational blocks of a company culture. And so when you hear Elon Musk, requiring people to go back to work, well, not everybody is like an Elon Musk who wants to sleep under their desk and be at work 24/7, and people want to have this work-life balance in these things that we were talking about. But I really liked your idea. I think, finding new areas to do work or having purpose for when you come into work, like, hey, we're coming in now so we can get together as a team, work on this project, come up with really creative ideas, and then let's go back and execute on those ideas, right? So I think that's a wonderful idea. And I think it's really interesting way to, one, save money on having like your own physical space and use these co-working spaces that are everywhere.
Agreed. And one of the interesting things that you said about trust is also a lot of these companies that we're talking about, they've actually shown better results or comparable results to the numbers they had before the pandemic. So as an employee, I'd be like, for 2 years, you were forced to get me to work from home. And now suddenly you don't trust me, despite the fact that we've been doing exceptionally well. So that doesn't make sense. Had we been struggling, had there been any challenges in terms of me not being able to deliver the right kind of work because you're not watching over my shoulder, different story. But we've done so well, and now you still want me back to office. It doesn't make sense. And I think that's where what you're saying makes absolutely perfect sense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Smith. I think that that's a really important thing, is that trust factor. And, I think, when we're in an office, actually, I find myself getting more distracted. I'll be sitting at a computer and I'll be like, okay, Bill just walked by. Now he wants to have a 15-minute conversation on baseball. I'm like, I don't care about baseball. Let me just get back to work, right? You're not so distracted at home. I think maybe in the early stages, it might be easy, but I find myself being much more productive when I'm working from home. Like, I think we all inherently want to work. Like, that's not the problem. Like, we like our jobs. We want to put the energy into it, and like, give us a quiet space to work with not very many distractions, and we'll do great at that.
Yeah, I have another friend that, I'm sorry, I keep talking about my friends. My other good friend, she's an executive assistant for a tech space company, let's just put it that way. But with that, she said that she's the executive assistant. She was kind of frustrated because all the executive assistants had to be in work where all the VPs and all the other types of specialties could have the flexibility, the hybrid setup, or work from home or wherever, whereas the executive assistants were required to be sitting in a little cubicle area. Also, the ping pong tables for the employees were right next to the executive assistants. So imagine trying to be an executive assistant with the sound of ping pong tick, 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 all day long, and how distracting that would be. And so she describes her experience. In addition, during the pandemic, I mean, if they had to wear their masks, and I know we're getting kind of over the mask issue, but she felt there was talk about equity and inclusion or diversity. It's like certain segments of the employee population were required to sit at their desk and were required to have their masks, where other departments could have more flexibility. And so it was a bone of contention, you know, just frustrating, feeling kind of unfairly treated. And then in that particular organization, then people started applying out of that department because they wanted to go work in other more flexible departments. So it became kind of a retention issue.
That is definitely, I mean, that also kind of segues into another thing that we haven't really touched on, but the diversity, equity, and inclusion part of this is that I think people take for granted that people, you know, feel comfortable being at the office, and they're, you know, the office environment's a little bit kind of like, think back to high school. It can get cliquey. It can be out there. Like if you're like one of 2 or 3 people of one sort of ethnicity and you're not seeing other people around you that are like you, going into that environment doesn't feel comfortable. You feel like, oh my gosh, I have to be on guard, or I have to act differently so I can be accepted by the cool people at the office, right? Like that is a real thing that people do. And so, you know, now allowing them to work from home allows them, I can focus on my work. I don't have to feel anxiety going into a space that where I might not feel perfectly comfortable. And then, you know, there's still people who do have, you know, health problems who are afraid of COVID. And if they're like, I have to go into an office again, like it's getting to be a smaller population, but those are important people too. We can't ignore them. We can't just be like, oh, you get over your fear of your health of dying from COVID. No, it's a real thing. We need to be really conscious of that.
Yeah, and there's still a segment
Great.
of our population is very adamant about wearing their masks. Sumit?
So that, I mean, that sparks two thoughts. So talking about inclusion and diversity, I was carrying out some research on LGBT inclusion, and I interviewed a lot of people. The interesting thing they said was that we're much happier working from office than from home, because the office is a more accepting space because of our inclusion policies out there. We feel more comfortable. We haven't really come out to folks at home, and therefore constantly being at home is more stressful, and we'd absolutely love to get back to the office. So that's one, which goes back to the earlier point we were discussing, that there's no one size fits all. So there's no single prescription saying go fully remote or go fully back to office. We need to figure out what our people require, what would be the most meaningful for their workforce experience, and do that accordingly. So I think that's one of the primary things to do. And the second one, of course, which also ties in, is people with medical conditions. So I've been one of them, where because of medical complications, I couldn't get vaccinated, though I wanted to. And one of my clients was insisting on me being back in office, and they happened to make a statement as offensive as that just because there's a virus in the air, that hasn't stopped people from protecting our borders and fighting for national security, right? How is our job any different? So we can't simply shirk work just because you're afraid of a virus. And there still are people like that who believe this, and it's
I do think there's definitely different types of perspectives out there, and that's part of the reason why I want to acknowledge our sponsor here, TMA. And so part of the TMA process is to provide assessments and out to your people, not for the to test them on certain things, but to get to know them more, to get to know them better, and to understand how they like to work and communicate and all those different things, and most importantly, be rewarded as and understand what they're concerned about. I mean, we're just, as Sumit was just mentioning, I mean, there's some people that are concerned about COVID, and others that want you in the office, and different things like this. So it's good to have these conversations early on and often, so we understand the best way to work and to maintain happiness in the workplace. So TMA method definitely allows for this, and it's a way to keep close to your employees on a regular basis. So if you're interested in learning more about TMA, please reach out to me, and I can send you an assessment. But it is important to know that there's plenty of resources out there. There's the competencylibrary.com that TMA provides free of charge. that anybody can go take a look at. And also a variety of different apps that you can use for recruiting and in coaching your people. So a lot of great free resources.
Yeah, I just want to say this is a great component. I call it the retention toolkit. And I was trying to develop retention toolkits back in my talent days. And, you know, your concept, Eric, of sending home a box or sending home information, a lot of our employees are looking for technology, apps, links, customize. And I'll just say TMA definitely offers that. And, you know, I've worked in those companies where the coffee was so darn strong up in Tacoma, Washington, that it was like drinking tar out of a jar, you know, right, Eric?
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm Colorado or from Minnesota where the coffee is really weak, you know, it's watered down coffee. You don't drink stuff like that. But had my leader had a little bit more of a conversation with me and open it up, it's like, you know, what's your preferences? What's your, you know, what do you like? And so anyway, back to the TMA, this is a great way to start those friendly, positive psychology, open dialogues. And then you'll learn about what type of coffee people like to drink.
That's right. That's right. Also, I want to acknowledge our speaker for next week. So come back and join us. We're going to be talking with Karen. Karen is going to discuss about the developing intuitive leaders, and it's going to be really insightful. So please join us next week on the People Strategy Forum. All right, but before we wrap up here, I want to just, Eric, to tell us a little bit more about how people, our listeners, can learn more about your services and your company.
Yeah, no, wonderful. Yeah, and I think this is a great segue from our, you know, diversity and inclusion is we will actually provide you with a free box if you'd like to sample one out. So that's a great way we create brand awareness is we send out free boxes. And that's actually how I got connected with Comp Team is I send out a free box, I believe it was to Wendy. And when you get that, what we'll do is we'll actually send you a link. You get to customize the box just like your employees will. So you get to experience what your team will experience before they do. So you can see, is this going to be a good fit for your company? So you get to customize it, choose your favorite coffee, choose your favorite tea, pick your snack selections, whichever combination you want. Then you put your address in and we'll ship it directly. It takes about a minute to do. It's a really fun experience. And then after you get the box, you'll have a much better understanding of what it means to receive one. And then when it's time and you're ready to place an order with us, we do a first time discount of 10%. So feel free to reach out to me directly for that code. We have a great customer success team. So if you need any help getting your order set up, we're happy to help you there. We do 100% guarantee on all of our boxes. So if anything should go wrong, maybe like getting shipped 2 boxes like Shar was mentioning, we have a 100% guarantee policy where we'll fix it and make sure that your team gets exactly what they want.
Well, hey, Eric, I wouldn't mind getting 2 of your boxes.
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah, you can send me 3 if you want.
Yeah, right.
That's great, Eric. And so where do they go to sign up for that?
Yeah, if you go to breaktimebox.com, there is a button at the top right. You'll see it says request a sample. Just fill out a simple form and then we'll email you back a link that allows you to customize your box.
And so tell us, Eric, I mean, can you get a break time box anywhere in the world? Yeah,
actually, that's been one of the most fun things we've gotten to do this. We've changed from a regional company to international. So we've shipped all over the world. We do free shipping in the United States. There is an additional charge for international shipping, but yes, we can ship all over the globe.
That's great. Now I know that there's some other programs you say that you have on your website, such as the appreciation and so forth. How do you help companies understand and those pieces? Is the break time in the box still the main vehicle for those elements?
Yeah, so the way that we do that is you can create still the same break time box experience, but we have fun different cards that have been designed for those appreciation moments. So if it's a birthday, there's a birthday card stock that says happy birthday on the other side of the card. And then on the back side will be your message that you type to the recipient. So it's a way to create that sort of personal connection.
Great. Well, Eric, I want to say thank you very much. I mean, this has been a wonderful discussion, and thank you for keeping the culture alive at those places and your clients and so forth. So thank you so much.
You got it. And there was just a question from Jennifer. Thank you for that question. At the moment, we don't have specific country boxes like having, if you're in India, getting snacks from India, that would be a really fun thing. It's something that we would love to be able to include systematically, logistically. We're not quite there yet, but hopefully someday soon we will.
Great. Perfect.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week on the People Strategy Forum.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you, Daniel, for
Bye.
the great comment there. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.